show them, oh wait, this is actually it. I have evidence now.
Yes.
Because we can't take a mother's word for anything anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to have male confirmation.
Just before we wrap up, did you want to go a little bit into conscious conception and conscious parenting? I know it's probably massive topics.
No.
You don't want to? Oh, okay.
No, it's not really my bag.
Okay, all right.
No, it isn't. Might be more yours.
Did you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, look, I guess I'll share a little bit of my personal journey. I felt babies around me before I had them. And I think a lot of women have had this experience as well. So, I think that type of awareness is going to come through, you know, if you need to be meditating and clearing your mind and being kind of clear and open enough to be able to feel and recognise things around you. So, you know, I was called to have a baby and I said, no, I'm going to get my tubes tied. I don't want any more kids. So, you know, I resisted at the start, obviously, but then once I opened to that and was willing to call the baby in, then, yeah, I guess it's a very conscious act. When you're making love, you understand that, you know, the end result is that you're inviting a baby into your body. And I think I only really had a conscious conception with my fourth, so I got everything right on the fourth baby. And it took me the longest to conceive. I guess she was trying to teach me a little bit of patience because she was going to be such a strong girl once I had her. And yeah, as I said, I knew pre-conception that I was having a girl, and all through my pregnancy I knew it was a girl. I knew what name she wanted. I knew what type of birth she wanted. I feel she brought me to the path of Lotus Birth and the Wise Hippo birthing program, and yeah, even the doula that I had. And you know, she's the one that's sort of up there and can, I guess, you know, create all the spiritual intervention that I needed down here. So yeah, I feel I also went vegan just before I started conceiving her, and that's sort of another story, but that was kind of a sign that came to me as well, go vegan now. And I was already vegetarian, so it wasn't a huge leap. And it was just after Easter, and I went, oh, but I'll Easter and chocolate. But I listened and I said, okay. And then I remember, my family were teasing me because they didn't jump on the path with me straight away, and they're teasing me with the Easter eggs. Bugger this, I'm having one. And I tried to eat it and I choked on it. I couldn't swallow it. So, yeah, again, so, you know, fast forward all this time later and just research and things that have come to me. The children now that are of a really high vibration are coming through vegan. Veganism it's a huge part of evolution, and it comes down to the vibration and energy level. So, yeah, all of those things, as I said, came to me intuitively. I got teased a little bit through my pregnancy because I was buying girl stuff, and, you know, the mother-in-law said to me, you better hope this baby doesn't come out with a penis. And I said, well, I'll cut it off. I'm planning for a girl. She was mortified. Yeah, and I had my little girl. It was little Marley Rose. We had the name picked out, as I said, pre-conception. And then later on, I found out that my grandmother's middle name and my husband's grandmother's middle name was Rose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so how special is that? Oh, I just got goosebumps.
Well, me too.
Yeah, and I think going into conscious parenting, it's another thing Sandy mentioned. It's the same thing. Every child's so different, and there's no one way to parent, and you've just got to trust your instincts. If something feels right, go with it. If it doesn't, you know, go with it, and just keep trusting that process. It's not easy to live consciously and make conscious choices in this world. So, you know, you've got to be strong, and you've got to, I guess, really trust in yourself. And sometimes you do need to do a lot of research to back up what it is that you're feeling, just to help others around you. But it always pays off in the end, and the more that you do trust those things, and the more you see that when I follow my feelings, things always turn out. When I follow those feelings, life works for me. That's what I found. Then the easier it is. And yeah, it's conscious conception, you know, birth, it's conscious everything, conscious life, conscious choices, conscious eating. It's really a whole holistic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do one without doing
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Sandy, could you give us a little bit of history into natural birth and how there seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know if it's a movement happening at the moment.
It is a movement.
Yep. And also if there's any resources for people listening so they can find out more information or educate themselves more.
Yeah, sure. The natural birthing movement, well, we might go back a long way actually to a man by the name of Charles Boyer back in the 1930s in France. And he was a man who looked into his own birth. I think he'd gone over to India and done a bit of rebirthing, and he discovered how awful his own birth was. So he came back to France, and he said that he was a doctor, obstetrician, and he said from now on, when the babies are born, as soon as they're born, we're going to put them in a little bathtub of water. And they started doing that, and they could see the baby just opening up like a little flower in the water. So that was the first part of it wasn't water birthing, it was just the baby going into water.
It's called the Laboya method, wasn't it?
The Laboya method, that's right. And he believed that it should be in a dark, dim room and people should be quiet, no noise, and that it was all about the baby and what the baby was experiencing. And then quite a few years later, another French obstetrician, a man by the name of Michel Odont, who I've been fortunate enough to meet, he has written many, many books. Gosh, I can't remember them all. What books has he got? In the Age of Plastics, Michel Odont, O-D-E-N-T, look him up, he's got many books. And he was the person who introduced water birthing. So he set up a hospital in St. Pithias in France, and women started water birthing there. Not every woman gave birth in the water. A lot of women only laboured in the water, but the benefits were fantastic, and women from all around the world travelled to France to give birth. And then a little bit further down the track, we've got in the 1960s, coming up to the 70s, an American woman by the name of Ina May Gaskin. Ina May and her husband, I think it was in California they started off. They started off a big road train of people, lots and lots of caravans of people, and they travelled for miles and miles over a period of many months. And during this time, quite a few of the women that were travelling gave birth to babies. So Ina May virtually became a spiritual midwife. She later went on to become a fully trained midwife as well. But and she wrote the book Spiritual Midwifery, which is an absolute classic in natural childbirth circles. So I do recommend that. Her and her husband arrived at a state in America, cannot recall what it is, but anyway, they bought some land there and they set up a place that was called The Farm. It was entirely vegetarian, and they were producing their own food, and women from all over America were going there to give birth to their babies. They were having beautiful natural births on the farm. A little bit further down the track, all of the women in the hospitals up until the late 70s, including myself, all women were giving birth flat on their backs with their legs up in stirrups. Now this originally came about because King Louis XIV of France wanted to see his child being born. So one of his mistresses, when she was giving birth, was asked to lie on a table and was to be attended by the court physician, and King Louis hid behind a curtain and peeked around the curtain to watch his child being born. That became the fashion. Whatever French kings did in those days became the fashion. The whole of the court copied them. And then it went from the French court over the channel to the English court, and all the aristocracy in England were then lying flat on their backs to give birth. 30 years later, 2 Frenchmen invented the forceps. so that the babies could be extracted from the women who were now lying flat on their backs.
And they're all drugged too at
Yes,
this stage.
that's right. Janet Velasquez she came along in the late 70s, and she was in England, and she was part of the active birth movement. So the active birth movement got out on the streets of London with their placards and protested that women ought to have the right to decide whatever position they wish to give birth in. So thank you, Janet Velasquez, a wonderful lady, and I've met her too. And she's written the book Active Birth, and I do recommend that as well. Another a wonderful person who has helped in the natural birthing community is a woman by the name of Marie Mongan, who around about 25 years ago, she created hypnobirthing. And I recommend her book, which is called Hypnobirthing. Shiva Mrishana, who was the teacher of Michelle and I, she taught us our spiritual midwifery. She's written the book Lotus Birth, and it's a compilation of stories, and I recommend that also. Another person who I'm quite close to, because it's my daughter, Tamara Chanfini, who is the co-founder of the Wise Hippo Program, and it's based in the UK. It's a wonderful birthing program, and there are many, many midwives actually over in the UK who are teaching the Wise Hippo. In Australia, we're fairly new over here, and I think you could count on one hand how many Wise Hippo instructors we have at the moment. But that will change in the future, I'm sure. Another book that I'd really love to recommend is Gentle Birthing and Gentle Parenting, written by the wonderful Dr. Sarah J. Buckley, who I spoke about earlier on.
I just want to add David Chamberlain.
Oh, yeah?
Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He's done a lot of research on. They used to believe that babies didn't feel pain, and his book's really interesting into all the research that they've done around that. And I think he was a hypnotherapist, wasn't he? He was doing like rebirth sessions with people, and he realised that people remembered their births, and that's what led to the research of, from this belief of babies don't feel pain, babies don't have a memory, to actually we remember and it affects who we are. Our birth can have a huge impact on our personality, on our strengths, on our weaknesses, on our fears. So yeah, that book I couldn't put down, really interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
David Chamberlain.
Have to Google it or something. And
Yeah,
find
if
the
you
name.
Google him, you'll find his book. I'm pretty sure he's only written one, but yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Michelle and Sandy, for coming today and sharing all this information with us. As I said on the last podcast about Lotus Birth, this sort of information is really good to get out there, because there's not so much of it out there. Just for women to be able to educate themselves so they can have these births they want, and they know they have choices, which is something that obviously you're both passionate about. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time today to share all that information. I don't know what else to say.
Thanks for having us, Emily.
Yeah, thanks for creating this platform. I think it's really great to be able to have a voice, and it's hard to just sit and talk about birth, isn't it, Sandy? Things come up for women when you start talking about things, and often it is, trauma or memories, and so it's nice just to be able to sit and give information, and
Great.
And not have to have a box of tissues nearby.
Yeah. We don't mind the tissues though, ladies.
Okay.
I almost needed one.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.